I'm not seeing it on Twitter yet. Is it the Ken's 5 Twitter? Oh, okay. Cool. We'll do that. Yeah. How's it going, guys? Spurs lose 109-103 to Dallas in their first game back in San Antonio since the Rodeo Road Trip. Not a great first quarter in this game, actually far from it. Spurs lost that first quarter 36-20 and spent the entire game trying to get back into it. Once they did, however, they actually looked kind of good. They fought, they scrapped in this game. And in the fourth quarter, they went on a 15-1 run and erased a 19-point deficit. But basketball being a game of runs, the Mavericks had one too. And the Mavericks came after the Spurs came all the way back to tie the game. And as a result, Mavs win this game 109-103 in San Antonio. So what are some big things that we can take away from this game? First of all, Kristaps Porzingis and Luka Doncic are a pretty scary pairing. Those guys are good. Kristaps Porzingis had 28 points, 12 rebounds. He's 7'3", and he shot 4 of 8 from three-point range in this game. If anybody knows how to guard a guy who's 7'3" and can shoot a wet jumper from 28 feet, let me know, because the Spurs couldn't figure it out. And, you know, that's because that's a problem for which there is no good answer. Luka Doncic, 26 points, 14 assists, and 10 rebounds. That kid deserved to be an all-star this year. He was pretty good in this game, and the Spurs threw everything at him defensively. Lonnie Walker got the start in this game. He was guarding Luka Doncic for a lot of it. And Doncic shot below 50% and was clearly frustrated. He was getting defended physically. Spurs defense wasn't so bad in this game. Only gave up 109, and you know they made it tough, but they just that first quarter killed them, and there was some questionable roster management, rotation management things in this game, as there kind of have been all year. This was LaMarcus Aldridge bobblehead night, and LaMarcus Aldridge did not play because he was hurt. So that was interesting. And I think most people assumed, okay, so the starting center's out. The backup center will probably start in his place. We'll probably see a bit more of Jakob Poeltl. Poeltl didn't start, and he only played 10 minutes in this game. So that was a bit confusing, especially considering the way that some of the other players who were playing as a big played. Rudy Gay played 21 minutes in this game. 4 points on 2 of 9 shooting. Not what you're looking for. Rudy has been sort of a problem for the Spurs all year. And we saw it a lot tonight, where there were multiple occasions where he caught the ball wide open at the three-point arc and didn't shoot for some reason. Either passed out of it or dribbled into a heavily contested look. And that's kind of been the story all year for Rudy Gay. There were also times in this game where he was the center in a very small lineup, and he wound up having to guard Luka Doncic on the perimeter late in this game. And Rudy Gay guarding anybody on the perimeter this year has been not an ideal situation for San Antonio. Let's talk about Lonnie Walker for a minute, because he got his 4th start of his young career tonight. And after struggling a little bit in the first quarter, he really came on. In that 15-1 run in the fourth quarter, He was a huge part of that. He pinned a Tim Hardaway Jr. dunk attempt against the backboard. He was all over the place. He hit a couple of threes in this game. His willingness to take those shots has been, something of a point of development for him. He is a player who loves attacking the basket, and so it was encouraging to see him willing to take those three-point shots and knock a few down. His defense is always going to be pretty solid. He was matched up against Luka Doncic, a all-star starter this year, tonight, and didn't go super great, but as far as he did the best he could to hold him in check. And DeMar DeRozan had 27 points in this game, 9 assists, 8 rebounds, almost a triple-double. With LaMarcus Aldridge out, he knows he has to be the best version of himself, and he was attacking all night. He was aggressive. They were playing inside out through him, and just not knocking down too many shots, especially in that first half, first quarter. The Spurs were shooting a pretty brutal clip. They only shot 11 of 33, 33% from the three-point arc in this game. So where does this leave the Spurs? They are now 24 and 33. The Grizzlies got absolutely slapped by Houston tonight, so the Spurs are still 3.5 games behind the Grizzlies. Pretty sure 3.5 games behind the Grizzlies for that last playoff spot. But this is the time in the year where the Spurs really need to get it together if they want any hope of making that 8th seed and getting into the playoffs. It's been a struggle all year, and every game is sort of a microcosm. This game in particular was a microcosm of the season. Every time the Spurs look like they're figuring it out, every time they look like they're getting the momentum, something snatches it right back. Couple of other things in this game. Marco Bellinelli probably had one of his best games of the year, and it was 14 points, 4 of 6 from 3, and it was because he didn't force anything. So many of his frustrating bad games come when he's taking bad shots. He's taking shots that aren't in the flow of the offense. He's taking shots that, don't make any sense for anybody to be taking, much less anybody who's shooting as poorly as Marco Bellinelli has this year. But tonight he was on. He had 8 rebounds in this game. And that was something that kind of jumped out to me watching, was like, oh, he's kind of bringing a little intensity tonight. So good on you for that, Marco. He's sort of been the whipping boy for a lot of Spurs fans this year, myself included. But he had a good game. And Derek White, not a crazy box score game, only 9 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists. But every time Derek White is in the game, he's bringing 100% effort. And he drew a couple charges in this game on Luka Doncic. He is always engaged defensively. And it's fun to watch him play. When the Spurs did get going, he was a key component of that. So now 24 and 33, the Spurs have 25 games left, and this is it. They need to figure some things out. We'll see how long LaMarcus Aldridge is out, because the Spurs changed the wording on the injury report from shoulder soreness to shoulder strain. So that might indicate that this is a bit more of a serious injury that could keep him out for longer. So we don't really know when LaMarcus Aldridge is going to be back. Spurs, as we know, don't really give timetables for this sort of thing. He could be back the next game. He could be out for way longer. We just don't know. It's been a frustrating season for the Spurs, and it's been frustrating for fans who want to see change. It's been frustrating for fans who want to see the young guys play. Keldon Johnson got no run tonight. He scored 31 in a game in Austin last night, and he had 9 quick points and showed a ton of intensity in the San Antonio Spurs last game. It was all in garbage time, but he looked really sharp. And in this one, the Spurs had Luka Šamanić with the team, and he didn't play. Not that we really expected him to. With LaMarcus Aldridge out, I was thinking maybe, but that never happened. And so we're left with another frustrating result in a season full of frustrating results. But I gotta say, that fourth quarter run, that comeback, the Spurs never gave up in this game. When the Mavericks went on their run to put the game away, it's not because the Spurs gave up. It's just because they have some guys who are nearly impossible to guard. And that'll happen. So it was a respectable effort put forth, at least in the final 3 quarters of this game. Not really sure what they were doing for the first 15 minutes. But, you know, this is just one of those things. Hey, Arnold, how you doing? What's my prediction for DeRozan following this season? As the season progresses, we've talked about this on the podcast before, me, Evan Jackson, just because of his playing style, because of the position he plays and the way he plays it, he needs the ball in his hands a lot. And as good as he can be, his skill set doesn't really complement the young core that the Spurs have built. Derek White, DeJounte Murray, Lonnie Walker, these are guys who are at their best attacking with the ball in their hand. So I think the Spurs are going to move on. The problem is, for DeRozan, the only team that can sign him with cap space is the Pistons. So if he opts out and signs somewhere else, it's going to be in Detroit. And I don't know if he wants to go to Detroit. So we'll see what happens there. I think we may see a sign-in trade. If the Spurs and DeRozan come to an agreement, say, yeah, you know, we tried it, it's not working, we want to send you somewhere you want to go. DeRozan wants to get the Spurs something in return. We might see that happen. But I would be a bit surprised and a bit disappointed if the Spurs move forward with DeMar DeRozan on the roster into next season. And it's nothing against DeMar. He's a good guy. He's a good player. You know, it's more just about the direction of this team. And I think the direction of this team is much clearer if he is out of the picture and sort of making way for the young guys. Good question. It is one of the questions about this whole Spurs season and moving forward. And I think it's kind of indicative of the kind of season that the Spurs are having, that's the kind of question we're asking. You know, when they're not playing well, and this is the first time in about 20 years that they have played this not well, you start to think about what's next. You start to think about the guys coming up from Austin. You start to think about trades and free agency signings and, you know, what can be done to improve this team. Because it's looking at the way this season has gone, you can't say that this is the recipe for success because, you know, we're over 50 games in and the Spurs are almost 10 games under 500. Still hunting for that last playoff spot. It's not over till it's over, and I know that the Spurs want to keep this playoff streak alive. They've been pretty open about that, and they've already done too well to genuinely tank. So we're not going to see, unless the season as it goes on it becomes very clear that the Spurs are not going to get into the playoffs, they're going to fight for it for as long as it's mathematically possible. And I know it's frustrating for fans to watch, especially fans who want a draft pick. But thing is, this draft isn't really that strong. And the difference between what they could get if they just started losing on purpose and what they could get if they try their darndest to get into the playoffs is really not that great. So when you're faced with that reality, I think it makes sense to just root for this Spurs team to do as good as they can. And tonight, it took them a little too long to figure it out. And if that's not a great metaphor for the season, I don't know what is. All right. Well, this has been fun, guys. We're going to be trying to do these after as many Spurs games as we can. But that's it for me tonight. You can follow me at Real Tom Petrini. Follow Evan Klosky. Follow Jackson Floyd. Follow the Big Fun Pod. That's where we're going to be doing a lot of content like this. We have a podcast every week. We're going to record tomorrow, so send in questions. And, yeah, go Spurs, go.